Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to do focus stacking with the CamRanger 2. We're using a Fuji camera in this video, but the CamRanger 2 also works with Canon, Nikon, and Sony cameras. There's separate focus stacking videos for each of those cameras. Now, focus stacking is combining multiple images into one single image for enhanced depth of field. Particularly in macro photography, the depth of field of a single image can be very shallow. So focus stacking is the process of taking multiple image captures, adjusting the focus slightly between each shot. Then, in post-processing, you then combine or stack all the images together to create one image with a much greater depth of field. It's typically used, say, for insect shots or small product shots like jewelry or rings. It can be a really good technique to get the entire object in focus. However, the process of actually capturing the images can be pretty tedious and time-consuming, continually shooting, adjusting focus, shooting, adjusting focus. With the CamRanger 2, you can automate this, and it's pretty simple to set up and use. Let's see how it works. Here we are connected within the CamRanger 2 app. We have a Fuji X-T3 connected to the CamRanger. And the first thing we're going to do is press the I button to turn on live view. Now we can see a scene of what the camera is seeing. I will press the magnifying glass button and bring up the focus tab. You can see on the top large, medium, and small arrows pointing down and pointing up. Those are incremental focus adjustment buttons. Up moves the focus further away from the camera, and down moves the focus closer to the camera. Down below we have a focus stacking section where you'll notice two areas, 1 and 2. Those represent the near and the far points of our focus stack. So the nearest part of the subject we want in focus and the farthest point we want in focus. To set the nearest position, we can adjust the focus however we want. That could be physically rotating the lens, it could be doing the incremental focus adjustments, or in this case we'll just do a touch focus. Touch on the corner of the magazine there, tell it to try to get focus, and if we want we can zoom in and confirm. That looks good. So I'll go ahead and press set to set our near point. And the first time you do that, you'll be presented a dialog with some basic instructions on focus stacking. The most important part to know is after setting the near point, you can only do incremental focus adjustments because we're actually tracking those focus changes. If you do a touch focus, for example, we lose that tracking and the saved focus positions are cleared. So hit OK, and then use the incremental adjustments to change it. And that looks like that's past our furthest magazine, so I'll go ahead and press set for position 2. And now you'll notice 1 and 2 are buttons. You can actually now press those to move the focus to position 1 and position 2. You'll also note this 188 over 188. Now this is strictly for informational purposes and isn't important to actually keep track of, but in case you're curious, that's actually the number of internal incremental focus changes or steps between our near point and our far point. So you can see right now it's 188 over 188. If I press 1 to go to the near point, you can see it now changes to 0 over 188 because we're now at the beginning of our stack. So again, not important to follow that or track that, but there are times when it can be useful to pay attention to it. I'll press the plus button to expand our options. You'll see the focal length of the camera lens is set right there. It's at 41. And then the CamRanger automatically determines the number of shots for you based on your setup. And as part of that, it determines a step size as far as how much the focus should change between each shot. Now the CamRanger usually does a pretty good job determining the number of shots and the step size, but there could be instances where you want to change it. If you want to do that, you can do that by changing the adjustment factor. Right now it's set to the default of 1, but we could say set it to 2, and you'll notice the step size has now doubled and the number of shots is in half. So it's going to take a larger focus change between each shot. But I don't think we actually want to do that, so we'll set it back to 1. Also, to keep in mind, one of the parameters in determining the number of shots that the CamRanger 2 uses is the aperture, which makes sense because the aperture factors into depth of field. So for example, if I change it to f11, the number of shots goes down quite a bit. And for a macro scene, f11 would probably be a more reasonable choice, but because we don't have a macro lens and we're trying to emulate it here, I'll set it back to f5 so we get more shots like you might in a more typical stack. We're now all set to get started, so I'll go ahead and press start, and it'll go through and automate the process of capturing an image, changing the focus, capture an image, change the focus, and so on until it's complete. And you can see how fast it goes, which is pretty fast. Actually, we don't really want it to go any faster because we need to leave a little bit of time for the camera to settle down after the lens focuses. Otherwise, there'll be a little bit of camera shake and it'll actually be worse. Okay, our focus stack has completed, and we can see if we go through our images, you can actually see the focus moving away. You can see it most drastically if you jump all the way to the end, to the beginning. Now, the CamRanger 2 doesn't actually do any of the post-processing, any of the combining of the images. You'll need to use some sort of third-party software to do that. There's a few different options. Personally, I like Zareen Stacker, but options like Photoshop or Helicon Focus can be good choices as well. There's also a couple settings with regards to focus stacking that's important to know. I'll go into the settings and then controls and workflows. First is this HDR focus stack delay. That adds an additional delay between each shot. A common example of why you'd want to use that is if you had a flash that needed to recharge between each shot. So you could add a little bit of a delay in there. Next is the classic focus stacking. Typically, you'd want to use the default, more advanced focus stacking that I just showed. The classic focus stacking is what the original CamRanger did. And if you're familiar with that setup, you might want to use it. So just to show you, I'll go ahead and turn that on. Turn live view back on. Go to the focus tab. And now, instead of setting your near and far points, you simply set the number of shots to take and the step size, small, medium, or large, to adjust the focus between each shot. You then press start and it automates the sequence from where you currently are. So, hopefully this video was helpful, and stay tuned for upcoming videos. Bye.